like to lead us in the flag salute? If not, I will. Okay, those, please mute your microphone for the flag salute. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Secretary Lisa, please call the roll.
Chair Klein,
Here.
Vice Chair Andrioli,
Here.
Commissioner Baca,
John Baca is here.
thank you. Commissioner Condon,
Here.
Commissioner Larios,
Here.
Commissioner Soktova.
Here.
I'm not sure if Commissioner Williams is on. Doug Williams.
Definitely. I love your creativity and your out of the box
Okay, not
thinking.
here
You
yet.
know, this is a deep right? So
Chair Dare,
you did highlight the need.
Here.
I love the concepts. I love how you treat philosophy.
Commissioner Perez, I think that we can hear your background noise.
Okay, I'll turn it off, but I'm here.
Thank you. Vice Chair Franz,
Here.
is Commissioner Alley here? Not yet. Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Oh, thank you. Commissioner Morfin? Not yet.
Here.
Commissioner Stossel?
Wait, go ahead. I'm here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Secretary Pope, do we have any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Second that motion. Commissioner Morfin.
I second.
Motion by Commissioner Morfin, seconded by Chair Dare to approve the agenda. I'll call the roll. Chair Klein,
Approved.
Vice Chair Andrioli,
Yes.
Commissioner Baca,
That's yes.
Commissioner Condon,
Yes.
Commissioner Larios,
Yes.
Commissioner Soktova,
Yes.
Chair Dare,
Yes.
Vice Chair Franz,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Perez,
Yes.
Commissioner Stossel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we will take public comments from members of the audience. If you'd like to provide a public comment through Zoom, please click the raise hand button.
We have no hands raised.
Okay, we will now go to new business.
Item number 1 is mandatory organic waste disposal reduction ordinance. And sorry, Freddie, Health and Environmental Control Director Agent will present the report.
Thank you, Lisa. And good afternoon, commissioners, and thank you for taking time out of your day to have this special joint meeting. Today, we're gonna discuss the Senate Bill 1383, which is SB 1383, the requirement and the city solid waste management program. So in consideration of the comments and feedback that we received from the BIC and the Green Branding Commission, we did have a conversation. I did send what I consider as a draft model ordinance to the ad hoc committee and got a recommendation back. So we want to kind of discuss that and get your feedback. So just a little background on SB 1383. As many of you are aware, we did a little presentation a while back. 1383 established a methane emission reduction target in the state. And the effort on the state part is to reduce emission of short-lived climate pollutants in various sectors of California economy. So the action to reduce the short-lived climate pollutants are essential to addressing the many impacts of climate change on human health, and then on the environment. The target is to achieve a 50% reduction in level of the statewide disposal organic waste from the 2024 level by 2020, and 75% reduction by 2025. So that really encapsulates the whole 1383. California Department of Resources and Recycling Recovery, which is CalRecycle, has been tasked with managing the organic waste disposal reduction targets and established an additional target that are not less than 20% of currently disposed edible food, which must be recovered by, for human consumption by 2025. So what SB 35 also does is to further California effort to achieve the state-wide 75% recycling goal by 2020. That bill was established by Assembly Bill 341, and it strengthened the implementation of mandatory commercial organic recycling, which was AB 1826. So as many of you are aware, SB 1383 requires all jurisdictions, including City of Vernon, to adopt an enforceable ordinance to implement the short-lived climate pollutants, organic waste reduction regulations set forth by CalRecycle, as well as food recovery program. The legislation requires all California jurisdictions, including Vernon, to implement mandatory organic recycling program aimed at single-family, residential, multifamily residential, and commercial solid waste generators, which is our businesses in Vernon. The law grants CalRecycle the regulatory authority to oversee the implementation of local programs, the ability to monitor performance, and to levy penalties against the jurisdiction for non-compliance. So a little history. On June 16, 2021, at the joint special meeting for the BIC and Green Vernon Commission, the commissioners established a BIC SB 1383 Waste Hauler Temporary Ad Hoc Committee, and the Green Vernon Commission also established the same ad hoc. For the purpose of facilitating discussion with city staff on the limited matter of SB 1383 Solid Waste Management Program and consolidation of waste hauling enterprises in Vernon. In an effort to obtain feedback from the ad hoc committees, the Health and Environmental Control Department provided the respective members a draft mandatory organic waste disposal reduction ordinance, which is attachment 1 that we have. And I can actually share my screen in case you don't have it. Share this one. Excuse me, let me share this one. You guys see it? No?
No.
No. Try it again. How about now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. So that's the attachment, that's the model ordinance. I'm gonna make it a little
Oh,
bit.
wait, Freddie, you're showing your actually your calendar event, not
Oh, you
the,
see you can see that? Okay.
yeah.
Let me stop.
It was there, but then it disappeared, Freddie.
Oh, I moved it.
Either you did or someone else did it.
Let me try it again. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Navigating two screens sometimes get confusing. So the draft ordinance reviewed by the ad hoc committee members is car recycle model ordinance, and is being utilized to ensure that all applicable mandatory recycling laws are addressed. Following the feedback from BIC and then Greater Vernon Commission and any additional analysis review required from staff, the mandatory ordinance by the city will ultimately be presented to City Council for their review and adoption. Once adopted, the ordinance will enforce SB 1383 requirements for collecting and recycling of food waste and green waste by residents and businesses. Staff is recommending a 2-container collection method. This recommendation is based on maximizing space at multi-tenant businesses to comply with the requirements. Additionally, the method is expected to achieve a higher rate of compliance among generators due to the ease of 2-bin system and the likelihood that generators will place waste in the correct bins. So one of the options that was given by Car Recycle is that you're doing a 3+, it's a 3-bin system or a 4th one, or doing a 2-bin system or 1-bin system. So just kind of want to bring that up. The proposed recycling program closely resembles that to which Vernon residents and businesses are currently accustomed to, and provides less disruption for current operations among businesses and franchise haulers. I just also want to share some of the feedback that we got from the ad hoc after we send that model ordinance for their review. So some of the feedback we received from the ad hoc is as follows. The ad hoc recommended that we include an exemption in the ordinance for small businesses based on SB 1383 waiver criteria. We also received feedback to provide compliance deadline for all sessions requirements. Also to include an additional tier of violation to account for businesses of all sizes. And then also include a language to distinguish materials identified for rendering. And then there was some concern about our remote monitoring program, which I will touch on why we have that in the ordinance. Additionally, ad hoc committee members also requested clarification on certain elements of definitions contained within the ordinance, including in the city's SB 1383 implementation plan is an educational component which will aid the committee in their efforts to comply with new recycling mandates. Staff recommends that BIC and Green Vernon Commission deliberate on these matters that is being proposed in the draft mandatory organic waste disposal and recovery ordinance and offer your feedback. Staff will also, once we receive your feedback, will present the model ordinance, which will incorporate the feedback to the city mandatory ordinance, and then we'll present it to City Council at an upcoming meeting for review and their adoption. Also, we want to note that the Health and Environmental Control Department presented information on SB 1383 to the Green Vernon Commission at its December 16, 2020 meeting, and then June 16, 2021 meetings. In addition, staff also provided presentation to the City Council and the BIC and hosted 2 town hall meetings to share information on the city's SB 1383 implementation plan, including recommendation from the department to align the city with the targets set forth by SB 1383. Also, I want to note that after the feedback we received on the last joint meeting, after we considered that, we determined that consolidating the waste haulers to 1 or 2 enterprise in the city is not necessary at this time. So the city proposed ordinance to implement SB 1383 requirements in Vernon. I want to note that it's a separate from waste hauler discussion. But I really want to add that consolidating, we heard loud and clear the feedback that it's not an option right now. So There's no fiscal impact associated with this report. This is just an ordinance trying to get a feedback. And then we'll incorporate that feedback into the ordinance and then present it to City Council for their review and also hopefully for their adoption. So I will stop here and see if there's any questions for me. Go back here and
So Freddie, your efforts are to create a new ordinance, a new draft by when?
let me start for a second. So we, according to the state requirement and the statute, we need to have an ordinance in place by January 1st, 2022, which is a month or so away. And then on the timeline, use 2022 through 2023 to educate and get businesses on board. And then the enforcement actually comes in January 2025. However, I want to note that come January 2022, if we don't have an ordinance in place, potentially we can be fined by Car Recycle, and the penalty goes from $500 per violation to $10,000 per violation. So that's where we are right now. We have pushback with Car Recycle because of the pandemic. We're hoping, and not just us as a city, but most jurisdiction, to see if they will kind of change the due dates, but that didn't happen. However, we were successful having a Congress member sponsor a bill, which was SB 619, to not get fined if we don't have everything in place by January 1st, 2022. However, that kind of give you only a 3 months window to do that, but without getting fined.
Freddie, this is Kathy Brown. I have a question. You mentioned the ad hoc committee supported an exemption on small businesses. What is defined as a small business? Is that by number of employees, and what is that exemption?
So the exemption and the exemptions, one is going to be almost case by case basis, but the way Car Recycle define that waiver is if a business generates less than 2 cubic yards of solid waste, and then if they generate less than 20 gallons of recyclable waste, then we can exempt them. So that's why it will be almost case by case basis what the business is proposing to us. And one great feedback actually that came back that we think it would be great is then we can do kind of self-attestation from the business. And once they self-attest, then they put on the ownership is on the business. And then based on requirement from Car Recycle, every 5 years we can review to see if anything have changed.
Thank you.
I have a question. Now, when you say the exemption for small, businesses from Cal Recycle is defined as less than 2 cubic yard or 20 gallons, is that weekly or is that monthly?
If they don't generate that much, so that's weekly. Typically, that's your weekly generation.
Freddie, do you know how many small businesses that would essentially qualify for that exemption in Vernon right now?
No, Jack, sorry, I don't have, because we don't know how they generate, because, this is why I mentioned with Kathy that it will be case by case basis, because if we go by what a small business is, some business do generate more waste than others. So it would be, we're working on the businesses to self-attest that they are not generating that much. And the other thing I want to add also, the exemption or waiver, is if the business space is an issue also, that we're able to exempt them so they don't have the two bin system if space is an issue. So that's another option.
Hi, Freddie. I also have a question.
Yes.
How does this ordinance affect the residents?
So it affects the residents similarly to businesses. They need to have, whoever their hauler is, there will be two bins. So one will be for organic waste that can be taken out to a facility, sorted out, and then instead of going to a landfill, it can go to a place that it can be either compost or recycle. So we will educate also the residents how they can do that. Just so you know, our council member, like most of our residents right now have a two bin system. So they're already doing that already. I think the one that, excuse me, I'm not sure is doing that is the Vernon Village. I think they only have one bin system, so that's where the education will come in. But the city housing, all of them have the two bin system already.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Freddie, this is Kathy again. I have another question. For the businesses, the education component, is that coming from the hauler, from Cal Recycle, from the city of Vernon, or a combination? Because the businesses need to be educated and become aware of the two bin system and how what's correct to be put in the bin, what's not allowed to be put in the bin, etc.
So Kathy, thank you for the question. That is gonna be actual, we're gonna be take the lead on that. But I would say all the above, I will be the lead on it. Because now we're on the hook to make sure that this is happening. So yes, we're gonna be providing the education. And this is what gives us that window from 2022 to 2024 to make sure we do the outreach, we educate. And I think I've shared with some of the commissioners also, our intent in Vernon is not to go out and write businesses up and find them and do. Our intent is to educate, because we know, all of us know that even when you're traveling, you go to the airports and there's 3 bins and there's pictures, people still don't put the stuff where they're supposed to go. So the only time there may be a violation that we need to follow is people that egregious is not following and they're not listening, they put in hazardous waste into the container and stuff like that, that it just, they're not allowed to do. But people that are doing their due diligence, we're just going to educate, because I know it's a big change for folks to, and I myself find myself sometimes, which one do I put the stuff in? You know, where does it go? So there's going to be continuous education, yes.
Okay, and I have another question. The gray bin are the current haulers that service the city of Vernon, particularly the businesses, do they have access, or are they qualified for the high diversion processing facility to take the gray bin containers and process them? Or do the haulers servicing Vernon have to send it somewhere else?
Yeah, so they have to send it somewhere else that have it. I think the one we have here have that capability, but the ownership's on the haulers to send it to the right place.
Okay, thank you.
Freddie, who's going to weigh the?
Actually, we have a question. I'm sorry. I think Ron has a question. He has his hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Ron.
That's all right. I'm curious, Freddie, has the city established where these composting facilities are? How far the haulers are going to have to move this material to get it to an approved composting facility?
No, Ron, the city haven't established that, because that is on, again, on the haulers and what they take in this product. So when it's separated, this is why the Cal Recycle have the 3 bin option, the 2 and the 1. And based on which one you choose, it's on the hauler to make sure that they go to the right place. So not only we have been responsible to educate our residents, our businesses to put stuff in the right place, but the haulers are also responsible on Cal Recycle site to make sure that when this stuff is being picked, it's going to the right place. So when it comes to where it's gonna go, like currently, some of our stuff that take from Vernon, I think end up in Riverside County. So I think those requirements not gonna change. You know, if they pick up recyclables and they send it to where it needs to go, that's still gonna stay. The only difference is gonna be now is you need to go to a place that will be source separated, and then either it's going to composting or end up in landfill. That work has to be done.
So will there be an additional cost for the longer haul to get it to a composting facility?
I don't have an answer to that. I think it could be, but right now, based on what 1383 is requiring, is you have to meet one of the criteria.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Freddie, so I know there's these very specific 25%, 50, I'm sorry, 50%, 75% reduction. Who's weighing the trash?
So this is when you go to where it needs to go and sort it out. That's where you get weighed, and the haulers do get they get a receipt, and those are reported to us.
So the baseline was reported to you as well?
Yeah, so they report whatever they're taking. So the state base is going to take those numbers. So we'll report back to the state. And based on how many is being diverted and going, that's what they're going to do the calculation. So it's not individual, like Vernon have to, you know, Vernon may be 80% as an example. Someone may be 65. They will take all that aggregate and then they will add that up. But the goal is to do the 50 and 75.
I'm sorry, the baseline has already been measured. Is that correct?
Like the 50, so they haven't issued a report for the 2022 out yet, but yes, that would go the baseline. It was pegged on 2024 recycle and waste.
Jack and Freddie, maybe I can add a little color to this. I've been working with Cal Recycle very closely, as this is very impactful on the rendering industry, and as well as CDFA. But so basically what Cal Recycle said is there is actually no reporting requirement for numbers from municipalities. How they are planning on taking these numbers and determining whether we're meeting the goal is looking at the landfill itself. So they are doing studies, and they did that as part of their baseline, but they are doing studies at the landfill and determining the volume in a percentage-wise basis of each of the different aspects of waste. And their goal is to determine, when looking at landfills and doing their surveys, whether the organics that were previously going in at the time of the baseline has been reduced, you know, and that's kind of the methodology that they're doing. How exactly they do that is beyond my knowledge, but that is what they've told us, because we made that case to them, you know, about how, you know, why isn't rendering reporting numbers, since we are organics diversion as well. And they said nobody's reporting numbers. It is, they're doing their own surveys at the landfills as part of what they're doing. So that may provide a little insight into that.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Wow. So I guess Freddie, just to envision this, so every business except those that are exempt have at least, you know, 2 bins for disposal. Likely that'll be 2 separate trucks come down the city of Vernon. Anybody doing a traffic study on that? You know, I mean, there's a whole series of repercussions of doing this. I mean, obviously it sounds like you have to do something to meet some arbitrary standard, to make some very specific percentage, and throw out any of the unintended consequences. I mean, I just want to make sure I understand the scope of the requirement. Is that really it?
Yeah. So yeah, it's we need the requirements. We need to meet the standard that they have set, and they're holding us to it. And I think as you look through the ordinance or the draft, you know, they have this crazy idea. We need to do a route inspection to see that, you know, they are picking up the right stuff. They're proposing putting cameras in there to see that, you know, people are putting things in the right place. There's all kinds of goodies in there that we need to meet. But I think what to note before 1383, that most of this stuff, it wasn't mandatory. And if it was, the city or jurisdiction were not responsible to make sure people were meeting this. And they kind of flip instead of Cal Recycle doing the work, they basically put on the locals to do all that work on their behalf. And really that's what we at.
Have you interviewed any waste haulers and to help them understand what our program is and do some sort of, costing that they might foresee and see what impact will that have on both residents and the business? Again, if you're taking the same size truck and going down the same route twice, it seems like that's more expensive.
Yes, and actually we have started a conversation, and a couple of them actually mentioned to my surprise that some of them are even talking about consolidating their route, where one of them will swap out. I have these businesses, I'll do those, you do this one, to be more efficient. So that conversation is happening. And this is also, it's not just Vernon, this is going to be the whole state. So I know that they're having that conversation, yes.
Freddie, one of the conversations that you and I had is that, when you talk about the consolidation of the haulers, if you have an industrial park that's several 100,000 square feet and you have, anywhere from 5 to 25 tenants, and even if you're in a 500,000 square foot industrial park, the parkings might not be there for all these extra containers. So the hauler and the tenants kind of get together and they decide, well, this is going to be the composting bin. And then you can, solve that issue of not having one at each unit because there isn't room.
Exactly, Tom. And that is the space exemption that I mentioned. So there's room, especially in Vernon, to work with businesses that those impact and work it that way. You have that option for them, so you don't have multiple bins. But the ideal really recommendation would be using a one bin, but that's very costly. Because then it needs to be taken, basically you need to source it out and take what is recyclable, what is trash, there's other things, all that needs to go somewhere else. So I think the two bin system with the exemptions give folks, the opportunity where either they can consolidate all the recyclables and then the trash, or if they meet the exemption, they don't even have to do it because, they don't meet that 2 kVI, which Cal Recycle said we can do a waiver on. But that will be done on case by case basis. So initially it's going to be a lot of work, but it's, for education, working with the haulers, that's how we're going to be able to achieve this.
Freddie, something happened with my connection at the moment. I'd asked if you talked to if you spoke to the waste haulers and as far as increased costs. And I apologize, but I did not hear that answer, that they plan to reroute their 2 trucks together, I guess, or something.
Yeah, so what I was saying, Jack, was a couple we spoke to get a feedback that they're talking about consolidating their route. And that being, I think what I was mentioning is this is not just Vernon, this is the whole California. So some of them I've seen that, especially when it comes to businesses, it may not worth it, stopping at here and then come back the next day. So they consolidate so that it's cost effective for them.
Okay, so are they going to have to change out their equipment to do this?
No. I think most of them that I'm aware, they do pick up recycling material.
Okay, so
it's what it needs to go to get sorted out.
Okay, so currently they're running a very inefficient operation. They're going to make it more efficient by consolidating their routes, and therefore they don't expect a lot of cost increase. Or as far as costing, I know what their plans are, but the business community is going to, I guess, accept whatever costs. Hopefully, thankfully, we don't have a, we haven't made territories for folks and raised costs based on monopolies, but a business owner paying, $600 a month in trash now, is there an example of what that expectation should be after we do this 2-bin system?
So Jack, something to consider, this is, since we have approximately 18 haulers in the city, we don't control how they charge, right? We have no control by that. So that is something we didn't, because if we have consolidated, then we would have the opportunity to say, this is what you need to charge based on the going rate. So this is why I was reaching out to kind of get a feel how are they going to do some of these things. And I think part of it they saw it's efficient is, they have a conversation about consolidating their route. So I don't know what the cost is going to be, but what I know is, any place that have a recycling and it has, your regular trash, they do come and pick up, either the same day or different days, but they do use those trucks to do recycling and trash, separate trucks. So by consolidating, hopefully that will cut down, coming in and out of the city. But how much is going to affect businesses, that we don't, because we don't set the prices.
Okay, I guess it can't be more than double, right? If we're asking them to do double the work, it can't be more than double.
Right, because if they were taking even one trash, they have to go and sort it out somewhere before it goes to where it needs to go. So either way you looked at it, there's some cost associated with it, I guess, to answer your
Right,
question.
so either they do it all sorting and take one and sort, or they take two.
And so, right, which
Double
is-
the number of driver hours to pick
Sort it.
up and
Right.
then not sort it as much.
Right, or they do 3, which is there's no space in Vernon, or they can even do 4, which I don't think it was practical in Vernon for them to do.
Okay. All right, just give me an example if you could. What's this, what would be a typical size of a business and the size of their 2 containers? Would they be 2 bins or 1 bin and a smaller container for the stuff we're recycling?
So so most of our businesses, especially now in Vernon, we're getting a lot of produce business coming to Vernon. I foresee them having the organic bin and then having the regular trash.
Right, they already kind of do that now though, don't they?
Exactly. Most of them already do that.
So is that already counted in our baseline that we got to do better than that?
Yes, and but I want to add also, some of them were not being captured.
Okay, so the ones that were captured, it's shame on them. They're going to have to, if everybody was a baseline, they'd have to do even more than they're doing now, which would literally be impossible if they're already doing as much as they can. Right.
And then the third tool on all this also is, especially with our produce businesses, they need to not only just dump the stuff for recycling. If it's edible, they need to donate that product. So that is also in there to make sure there's a food recovery program where they can actually donate stuff that it doesn't need to go to a landfill of composting.
Okay, I think a lot of them do that already. So are we like donating for rabbits or that kind of donate for?
Or donate for people if it's edible.
Oh, I know, but a lot of them are already doing that is my point. I mean, that's a kind of a standard practice is my understanding, so.
But what the car recycle requirement is, we as a city need to have a program in place that they are doing it. Currently they're doing it, but I don't have a program. They mandate that we do have a program where we know what kind of charity they're giving it to, who's picking up, and to make sure that, it's not going to waste.
All right, thank you, Freddie.
You're welcome.
Freddie, can I just throw in a little bit more, maybe to clarify for some folks? So just for the record, CalRecycle has their goals for the state, right? It's a statewide wide goal to reduce, organics going to landfill. It isn't a city goal. It isn't a, area goal. It is a statewide goal, right? So we either all succeed or we all fail kind of thing. But at the end of the day, the enforcement action that Cal Recycle is taking is ensuring that the cities have a program in place. So how, it's not that they're going to go in and say, Vernon, did you reduce your landfill organics by 25%? They're going to say, Vernon, do you have a program in place? And then Freddie's job has to go back to Cal Recycle and say, we have this program in place, and of the menu of options that you guys provided, we elected to do, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then Cal Recycle says that's good enough, or it's not good enough. That's the only enforcement that Cal Recycle really has in terms of the municipalities. Obviously, they'll be looking at the haulers and stuff to make sure that they're doing appropriate things with it. But in terms of the municipalities and the statewide goals, the only enforcement is, does your city have a program in place? Does it tick enough of the boxes to constitute a good program? If yes, you're good to go. If not, we're going to seek further enforcement action with you. So that's really, at the end of the day, what teeth were kind of built into 1383.
Thanks, Jimmy. So we're going to get this all signed off by Cal Recycle before we implement it and buy everybody buys 2 containers and do all that, right?
No, they want it, they want to say, we check all the boxes, or we don't, and then we get fined.
Right, but if you go and put your program and you know what boxes you've checked, you can't say, here you go, Cal Recycle, before we go down this path, please approve. We can't do that?
No, they're not approving, they just want to come and see that you have the program in place.
So Jack, they will offer advice. If Freddie thinks that there's a risk the program's not going to be good enough, he can certainly reach out to them. They're not going to give it like a stamp of approval, though, ahead of everything. What they've done in the law is they've laid out all of the different options of ways that you can meet the goals. And again, it's just a matter of each city has to determine how many boxes they want to tick. And hopefully that's going to be enough. Obviously, LA is going to be required to tick a lot more than someone like Vernon or, Commerce, which are a little bit smaller of cities, right? But as long as you have a program in place and you've selected, a grouping of those options that are there, you should be good to go. Now, obviously, come 10, 15 years from now, if we're not meeting the mandates, then Cal Recycle at that time may say, okay, everybody needs to do more, but for now, the idea is just to get programs codified into law and make sure that it's ticking enough of the options that they have. That's really what 1383 is trying to accomplish, is that first step.
Thank you, Jim. And Jack, I want to add also, I personally think this will actually help Vernon even shine some more, because like you alluded to, we're doing some of this stuff already. So now that we're going to have this menu, the boxes that we're doing all days, for example, the food recovery, we know businesses are doing them already. The fact that now we can actually show them that this is our business doing that, it's bode well for the city and our businesses. And then the ones that are not, we're able to help them out to do, like one thing we're going to do is create a list of all places that you can donate food to. And believe it or not, sometimes we get calls here and somebody say, hey, we have a whole bunch of cantaloupe that's going to go bad. Do you know what we can give it to? So now that we're going to have a program in place, we're able to point to people or have contacts that we can give that information if that comes up.
Great, thank you.
So Freddie, I got a question for you. I think you said that you were going to talk about the education side of things. What does that program look like? Can you talk a little bit deeper about it?
Yes, so what we plan to do is our first educational is basically sending out information out, explaining what it's all about. And then on the follow-up is to do some kind of a town hall to explain that. And then the third part is doing, excuse me, I need some water. And then the third is to do a follow-up by doing visits and educate. Like I keep saying, our goal in Vernon is not to be enforcement heavy that people, because it's going to take time. even though, I remember when this passed 2016, we thought 2022 would never be here. And we're blinking, we're in 2022. So 2024 is right around the corner. So we want to do everything we can to work with our haulers, with our businesses, and just keep educating. And we understand also we're gonna have businesses that are gonna come in and gone, and we need to continue to educate. Our medium and big businesses, they're already doing it. Jimmy, they already have this down packed, and we're not gonna tell them something they don't know. So this gives us more to focus on our smaller businesses. Even our garment industry, where now textile is considered as recyclable stuff. We can go to them, explain this to them, how it can be recycled or what needs to be done. So that is where our focus is going to be. The big ones that are already doing it, more power to you. The smaller ones will help them so that they can comply. So that's our plan.
So just to clarify, because I believe in the regulation proposed, it did say something about an education requirement yearly. You guys are going to take on that requirement. It's not that we need to put together a program every year, right?
Exactly. We'll put it together. And this is why we also, because we are 18 haulers, we don't think we'll be fair to dump it on the haulers. So there's a lot undertaking that we're going to take on, that we're going to work it out, staffing and all that, but I think it's doable environment for us to do that. And I think by doing that also we'll be consistent when we take on that role.
Okay. And then, so just to clarify the process here, you said that you guys are going to redraft and then take it to city council. Are we going to have an option to review what you're proposing ahead of that?
Oh yeah, well, once we take your feedback in, we're going to incorporate the waiver. I know you mentioned the rendering, define, because again, it's unique and burning. So we'll incorporate those and then we'll send that before we send it back. But just please note that our timeline is really short. So when we do send something back, we appreciate if we can get a quick turnaround so we can move it forward.
Okay, and then one last question for me, at least for now, on the monitoring program, and my comments that I submitted for the ad hoc committee, I'm very concerned with, privacy and, things of that nature, especially because, look at the rendering industry, right? We've got like 4 rendering plants that are active here in Vernon and we all compete with each other. We want to make sure that there's, exemptions from freedom of information requests, especially that. But I personally don't like the idea of having a third-party monitoring cameras on my property that I have no control over to look at a trash can. I mean, that to me seems a little bit ludicrous. And maybe I'm not alone with some of the other business owners here, but I don't know who's going to have time to sit there and watch cameras of people dumping trash, 24 hours a day for months on end. But, I personally, just want to voice that I think that while it may be something that they're asking you guys to do, maybe that's an option you don't elect to do, but I personally know that I will fight against having a third-party camera monitoring my property. I don't think that's right.
So thank you for that, Jimmy. I appreciate that comment. So just so you know, like you said, we don't even have the manpower to be monitoring unless we hire a full-time staff sitting here watching. But that's not the intent. The intent is, as you are aware, technology are changing. And as you are aware, we have actually now some haulers that actually have cameras on their truck. So when they're picking up stuff like recyclable, it may not have, hazardous waste in it. So they don't take it. So we left that in there as technology involved, if there's something that can be monitored, but that's not our intent, to go and ask business to put a camera on your trash and, who's going to install it, who's going to monitor it, and then if something happens, who's responsible, right? If, for example, there's a camera on your trash or on your wall, and then there was an incident and we saw it, do we call the police? So that is not the intent. The intent is to kind of prepare ourselves for the future. If there's technology come up now, even the trash bins come with the camera in it, that's a remote monitoring as the haulers have them. So that's why it's in there. It's not for us to go there and install cameras on anybody's trash. That is not the plan.
And I appreciate that, Freddie, but you're not always going to be here. And, someone down the road that may be more of a health and safety czar may want to put cameras up, so I would just ask you guys, and I know you're tight on time, but I would just ask you to maybe consider, paring down that language a little bit so it's not so broad.
No, understood. And we'll work with legal to see if we can pare it down or put a caveat to it.
Well, the ordinance as stated says at commercial businesses option. So it sounds to me as if we as a business would have to opt in for the remote monitoring. So any business who doesn't want it can just simply opt out.
Yeah, it's not this department to do that at all. And I don't know, it's not the city's role. But we'll look at the language and see if we can tighten a little bit.
I have a question. So the exemption waivers for small businesses, are they, I think I did read it. Is it a 5-year exemption or is it annual inspection?
So Duncan, one of it, in order for the business to qualify, is the self-attestation, right? So if they self-attest and we have it, then 5-year review to see anything that changes. Obviously, if they self-attest and things change within 3 months or something, they journey more, we need to revisit that. But if nothing changes, yes, every 5 years, it's part of the ordinance for us to do a review.
Quick question, Freddie. Would the city be requiring all types of haulers to register? Let's say a business already has a relationship with an independent hauler who takes the recyclable material.
So if you are hauling a city, even without 1382, you need to register with the city. Any hauler that works in the city, by city ordinance, they have to picking up recyclable trash, they need to register with the city. So if they have that, then we need to know.
Even if they're coming, you're the only business they come to in Vernon?
Yep. It's in our current ordinance already. Self-haulers have to register with the city.
That includes construction debris?
Yes, C&D.
I got one more if I can. In part of my comments, I also talked about in section 5, you guys asked that commercial businesses shall adjust their service level for their collection services as requested by the city. And I just want to, point out that I think it should be limited to what they're currently providing, i.e. if they are, in Vernon, 3 times a week, then you can ask them to pick up more frequently along that, but you can't ask them to come 4 times a week or 5 times a week, because I think that may be a burden on some smaller haulers that would not normally be coming here like every day sort of thing. And so I think that would be good form for us to make sure that the regulation isn't, just saying that you can, say, well, we want you here 7 days a week, and if not, out you go kind of thing. I think, we should just be careful about that.
So Jimmy, just to know, so actual pickup is once a week. And then there's an option if, you have business that may not generate enough trash or waste, that we can extend it to 14 days. So it was to do that, not to go back and say, you need to now go to 5 times a week. However, like everything I said, Kev, if we have a problem of a business that generating more than they're supposed to be and there's trash and stuff falling all over, which is a nuisance, we need to address that they need to increase their frequency. So some of this are case by case basis, but like anything else in life, if I can't point you to somewhere why we want them to do that, then it doesn't exist. So our goal is to continue what is being done. We foresee actually maybe people say, hey, I'm not joining enough, so I want to go to a 14-day instead of a 7-day, which there's a waiver for that. However, as you got to do your due diligence, getting things picked up, but we also come across places that trash overfilling. Now we have a rat issue, we have those things. So when those who come across who want to address it, that, you need to get your trash picked up, or, you need to, if you filling up too quickly, you need to increase the pickup.
Don't you
Sure,
ha-
and sorry, real quick, Jack. I understand that. I was just more speaking on the hauler side, is making sure that we limit that language to saying that the business you may require them to pick up more frequently, but that not that you can, demand a hauler to come more frequently than they want. I think that was kind of where my comments were going towards.
Understood. Thank you.
Don't you already have ordinances that prohibit folks from collecting trash, nuisance, and those kinds of things that you could already employ for businesses?
Yes, we do. But remember,
Okay.
this is a new ordinance, so we're trying to address that to make sure we match it up.
Okay, so that other ordinance is going to go away and be replaced by this?
Right. And then some of them will stay, but majority of them, that is 1383, will replace some of the old ones so they don't conflict.
Okay. Thank you.
This is the only part I don't like Zoom meetings. Sometimes get dead silent. It's like I can't wait for us to get back in person. So any other question? Lisa?
Yes.
I was checking that, but there's any further question?
Oh, I don't see any.
Freddie, I'd like to make just one comment that you and I talked about, and some people might be aware and they might not be aware. But even at my house, years ago, I can remember, somehow empty, paint cans getting in the trash bin. And one time I went back out and they had taken all the trash, but there was these paint cans that are laying by the side of the cans. And I'm like, wow, how did that guy know that? And then, the next time I had a chance to look at the truck, and some people may or may not be aware of it, but they actually have cameras on the truck. And when they get those residential bins high enough to dump them into the trash, they actually see what's coming in and they can stop, get out. And, I think it's a great policy, but if you weren't aware of that, you might find that of interest. I thought it was interesting.
But I know it's a huge fine if they take anything that is deemed hazardous waste or something to where it's going. That is because not only the MRF or whoever accepted get in trouble, the hauler gets in trouble. So this is part of the technology that I think is evolving. And this is what I was kind of alluding to Jimmy also, that, we may see actually cameras in the trash bins. So people can put things, so who knows what this stuff is going to do, it's going to go. So things are changing, and we will see what that all leads to.
Well, and the moral of the story is, do not put any dead bodies in your trash.
I plan not to.
All right.
Thanks for the reminder, Tom.
You're welcome, Jack.
Freddie, when do you expect to have the new draft ordinance?
Well, after I get the feedback as we're doing right now, we'll incorporate all the ones you guys, thank you for sending your feedback. We'll incorporate that, go to legal for their review. And then, so I'm hoping the next, today is Wednesday, early next week, we should have something back to get this thing moving, because time is not on our side right now.
Thank you.
All right, so we've asked if the commissioners have any questions of staff. I think we're done. Anybody else have any questions? Any public comment? Lisa, it's suggesting that I'm asking for a motion. What am I moving?
I think the suggested action was to recommend that the city council adopt the ordinance. Freddie, is that what you want them to do?
Yep, with the changes, and then move forward to city council for their review and adoption. Yes.
Okay, so are we gonna see the changes first, or we're gonna adopt it without seeing the changes? We're gonna see the changes first, so we should make the motion
Yes,
now.
I want a motion to add the changes, review, and then move it forward.
Okay, the motion to add the changes.
I think Jack froze. Freddie, what changes are you referring to?
So the feedback that we received from the ad hoc to incorporate the waiver, there's some language of rendering. So we have feedback to incorporate to that and then get a final review and then move it forward.
Okay, so until that happens, there's no motion. Is that, I'm just not, typically you have a, you have what we're gonna present and move and approve to hand to council. What we have now is we have a proposed ordinance. We have a variety of changes, modifications, additions to that we don't have documented. So I'm actually looking for instruction and suggestion. Do we make a motion on something we don't know, or do we wait for that and then make a motion?
So if you go to the agenda, Lisa, do you have the agenda? I think we stated what the recommendation was to the joint.
Give me just a second. Sorry.
I mean, I hate to even suggest this, but is there time for another dual meeting like this to go over the final regulation ahead of this, Freddie, or is it too tight of a time frame with public notice requirements and stuff?
I will leave that to Lisa with the notification.
Or Lisa, we could do it. Can we do it by email? Because we want to keep the time frame, trying to coordinate a hearing here. Seems like that's a lot of people's time to coordinate. But just an email, say it yes or no. I mean, we do this often.
No.
I believe Zaina's on, but
No, from the legal side, if there's any action taken by either the joint committee or either body, it would have to be a publicly noticed meeting. So I don't know if the ad hocs currently exist or still in formation. The ad hocs could offer some input on the revised draft, and that would not trigger additional, Brown Act requirements. But if it were to come back to either the joint body or the individual bodies, it would have to be a regularly noticed meeting or special meeting.
Those that have added or made suggestions, how do you guys feel about this?
I would feel uncomfortable, providing a motion on something we don't even know what it is. I mean, I know what my comments are and I trust Freddie, but I still, I don't know what any of the other comments were, and I don't know what any of the changes are, what the final language is. So personally, I would not feel comfortable participating in a motion to approve something we don't even know what it is.
Yeah, I'm actually of your mind. It's hard to suggest it. I don't want to hurt or slow down or impede the progress of the city, but do they need our motion or approval or suggestion? Do they need that to pass that? Because I don't think it's reasonable or fair to ask folks to approve something they haven't seen. It just doesn't seem to feel right. Can we open that for discussion?
Yeah, this is Kathy. The recommendation on the agenda says that we should recommend that the city council adopt a mandatory organic waste disposal reduction ordinance. I don't think it implies that the language needs to be final, and it's a good suggestion to finalize it via email so everybody has time to read it. But if the joint commissions can say, yes, we have to do this ordinance in order to comply with the enforcement date set by Cal Recycle, to forward it to not the final language, but to forward an ordinance to the city council. That seems reasonable to me.
So subject to forwarding it, but subject to an email approval. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes.
For Brown Act purposes, the approval or any action by the joint committee or by the individual bodies cannot be done via email. The ad hocs can provide input. I don't know what they've done in the past in terms of procedurally, if that's been, comments on drafts, but action can't be taken or a recommendation can't be moved along to council if it's outside the bounds of a notice meeting.
What is the notification requirement for a meeting? How many days do you have to provide notice?
For a special meeting, it's 24 hours. For a regular meeting, it's 72, but it would have to be a special, right? Because there's nothing on the agenda or nothing scheduled. There would be a regular meeting at this point.
And Freddie, when do you have to take this to city council?
So our timeline, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, is to go on council on December. I want to say, is it December 7th or 14th?
My understanding was that you were going to do first reading on November 16th, which the agenda goes out tomorrow or Thursday, and then second reading on first meeting in December.
And Freddie, how quickly can you incorporate these things?
Oh, we can get on it right away.
Okay, so you want to go 24 hours from today, and that's a special meeting, which meets that time. Unfortunately, Kathy, it sounds like we can't do what you suggested, which I'd be on board with, but so can we do a 24-hour meeting? You can have it ready for us. Let's see. I guess if it's 24, you can go, I can't, okay.
It'd have to be Friday, right? Because Thursday is Veterans Day.
And it's a 24-hour notice period from the agenda. So city clerk would have to post the agenda, and then it's a 24-hour period after that where you can actually conduct the meeting.
Okay, so I think it's the 15th is
Monday.
So we could post for a meeting Monday afternoon, right? And she could get the agenda out with the document Wednesday. Would that work for everybody?
Freddie, I don't think there's a possibility of turning this around for the council meeting on Tuesday, the 16th, if this is
No.
where
So
you're headed.
we'll move, but I think we'll go the recommendation and then move that one up. I mean,
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I just think there's at least two of us that are not comfortable with moving forward something that we haven't seen yet. So
I would suggest, Freddie, that staff determine the best time to have another joint meeting of the two commissions, because the timing is going to be a little bit different. So we probably need to calculate it out. I don't know that we need to rush. I don't think that doing a special meeting of the commissions on Monday helps the scheduling. Because we have, the next council meeting would be December, is it 6th? Sorry.
December 7th.
December 7th, and then we don't have another regular meeting until mid-January, and you can't adopt an ordinance at a special meeting. So I think we need to go back and calculate out the time frame.
Okay, so when we calculate and come back to, and then you communicate that with the joint. If we calculate out the date, when to have it.
Yeah, we would check with the commission, the two commissions again, to make sure that they're available for a special meeting to look at the final ordinance, so that they can make their recommendation to the city council.
And when we would receive then the ordinance to review, potentially.
I'm hoping that we're gonna start working as soon as we get off this meeting, so that I have it to you by early Monday, because you have to go to legal, also for legal review. So
We generally distribute the staff report in the packet about 5 days or a week before. So we would try to do that, if not sooner.
okay, so our motion would be to postpone the decision on this until the
Special meeting.
city clerk sends out a new meeting notice.
How about,
And go ahead.
let me help
Lisa, you
you.
want
How
to, yeah,
about-
thank you. I don't have any, there's no reading.
I
I'm
know,
off
because-
script.
because we weren't really
I'm
sure about
cratering
what's
in,
gonna-
auger in. Okay.
How about direct staff to bring back a proposed ordinance for the commission's consideration at a special meeting?
That
in the near
sounds
future?
great.
So moved.
I'm sorry, who moved?
Jimmy,
Please state your name.
Jimmy
Thank you.
Andrioli.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second that motion. Hector Morphin.
Thank you. And I'll quickly call the roll. Give me 1 second to get back to that screen. There's a lot of you today. Chair Klein,
Yes.
Vice Chair Andrioli,
Yes.
Commissioner Baca,
Yes.
Commissioner Condon,
Yes.
Commissioner Larios,
Yes.
Commissioner Saktaba,
Yes.
Chair Dare,
Yes.
Vice Chair Franz,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Morfin,
Yes.
Commissioner Perez,
Yes.
Commissioner Stossel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Terrific. Are there any reports from the commissioners or staff? Okay. Without any further business, I adjourn this meeting at 4:45 on November 9th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thanks so much, Freddie. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.